Okay. Sorry.
Do you mean in the sense that they weren't able to vote?
Yeah. So I think what I'm trying to say is before it was so bad, now it's like okay, and we need to get it to like perfect.
And I think even if there's like kind of legal restrictions that have been removed, there's still a lot of conservative spaces where sexuality isn't really free, and it still affects this generation, like our parents' generation, who, like, for example, my parents are Catholic or come from Catholic backgrounds, and there's a very conservative mindset there where sex wasn't talked about. I wasn't even talked to about my period when I was a kid. So even though like legally and kind of in the like social world, yes, that's still, we're past that. I think it still like affects us generationally, even like our generation, where we're still getting that flack from being sexually open, and we still don't really know how to navigate that space.
Wouldn't you say the internet, though, is the great equalizer? Because any information you really want is available. So, like, I've had a smartphone since I was in 8th grade. So if I really, I was a pretty innocent kid, to be honest, and it didn't, like, I was fine with that.
Yeah.
But, like, honestly, if I wanted to Google something, it's pretty easy. It's right there.
I was completely, but I think it's social media is kind of like a detached way of looking at things. I think when you learn certain patterns from your parents, certain mindsets, when you learn not to talk about certain things, like I was sexual quite early on just because of my family dynamic, but I received a lot of shame for it, and I was shamed for kind of the way I was acting, and it wasn't necessarily a healthy thing, but because it wasn't spoken about and it was kind of shut out, I didn't really learn how to deal with it healthily.
What do you mean by shamed?
So I found myself in a lot of kind of quite sexual situations early on. That was kind of the way I searched for physical intimacy, because I didn't really know how else to do it. It was kind of the way. And I received a lot of backlash from people who found out about it, like teachers, friends of parents who didn't want their kids to be friends with me because I was sexually active. My mom never really spoke to me about it, but I could feel kind of that disappointment in her. So it's never like outright, but it's more like a shut out. You're kind of freezed out for acting a certain way that doesn't really go with those conservative values.
Do you feel like we should be encouraging young girls to be more sexual?
I think we should encourage the conversation about it.
Okay.
And I think that's the issue. The issue is that we don't talk about it. It's not necessarily encouraging girls to be more sexual, but knowing that if they have certain urges, if they have certain feelings, if we can know about it and have that conversation about it, because you can learn all types of stuff from the internet, right? It's a great place to find information, but it's also a great place to find misinformation. And so I think it's just important to be having that conversation about it.
And who do you think the one that should be initiating that conversation? Do you think it should be parents? Do you think it should be schools?
I think it should be collective society. I think we should all be encouraging that conversation. I don't think it should be a taboo topic to be talked about. I think we should be speaking about it completely.
Because I'm of the opinion that I think you can judge a society by the way the women act in that society. I think if you go to different nations around the world and you look at how the women act in that society, you will generally get to know how the society is. I feel like in the Western world, the way the women act in this Western world, you can kind of tell that society is degenerating, in my personal point of view. I really do believe that society is degenerating, and that's because, for me, children have to be raised, and they have to be raised by someone. So women are the first teachers of children.
So are the fathers.
And fathers.
No, the first teachers of children are women, because that's where the child is at mostly. It's mostly with the woman. So it's getting most of its teaching, most of its nurturing from the woman. And if the woman is not right, then the child's not going to be right.
But it depends what you define as right.
Like, yeah.
Well, morally correct, right? A morally functioning, fully functioning part of society. I think if the mothers and the women of the society aren't functioning correctly, then that will be handed down quite easily to the children.
But you're trying to define what's morally correct for every woman ever. But even your morals isn't like it's not the same as for everyone else. You know,
it's not about what's morally correct. It's just like actions have consequences.
Yeah.
Right.
And men are biologically like they're repulsed by girls that have slept around, and that they can't help it because historically they had to ensure paternity. Yeah. So you can't make that go away in them.
So you say
like the same way like we want a tall guy because we wanted a guy that could protect us. You can't get rid of our biology. It's just there. And like, no matter how much society tries, it's still there. No guy wants to date a girl that slept with like 100 dudes.
I feel like there are some guys who
100%. There are people who don't have an issue with
guys.
that.
But if you there are exceptions, but it's not the rule.
Yeah, and will you
Neither
respect
is
that?
the other way around.
Right. Okay. Let me just go around. Do you want to date a girl that slept with 100 dudes?
No, thank you.
Do you want to date a girl that slept with 100 dudes?
No.
Do you want to date a girl that slept with 100 dudes?
No.
And I've asked similar questions on the show. Like I've used different numbers, 50, 70, whatever it is. You can't shame men into wanting what they want.
It shouldn't be about what the men want in that sense. We shouldn't define a woman's sexuality by what the men want.
Yeah.
We shouldn't define a woman's like freedom to explore her sexuality by what men
This
want
is
in
part
her.
of-
Right. So you can do, like, I don't care what other people do.
Right.
Like, I don't think it makes you a bad person just because someone sleeps around. Like, that's what they want to do. But the point is there's consequences. And so if you sleep with a lot of people, less guys want to date you.
But it's the judgment and the taboo of sexuality that comes from, kind of thinking that a woman is dirty because she slept around so much, when that shouldn't be the mindset. But that's the mindset that's been taught because of sexuality of a woman has been so controlled and restricted and defined. Like Marilyn Monroe, who was a sex icon, but it was in so many different relationships where the men were awful to her because they took advantage of her sexuality, wanted her to be the sexual icon.
Yeah, but she
wanted
also
her to be this.
profited. She also profited off of it.
Yeah,
so you can't say like they took
She also
advantage.
committed suicide because of her relationship with the
The bed-
Kennedy brothers.
The bedrock
You know what I
of
mean?
society are families.
And if anything, that's showing that like being promiscuous doesn't lead to good things.
Right.
But it wasn't.
Like,
it wasn't
so-
her promiscuity that led to it. It was the men that she was involved with who
but
disregarded her.
that she chose to be involved with. So it's like if you make choices, there are consequences.
Right.
She
And
was
it- and it-
actually
and it-
sexually molested as a kid, and that's why she was like that.
She was sexually molested as a
Yeah.
child. I'm not. If that happens to someone, that's terrible. I'm not blaming that on her. But I'm saying as an adult, she made choices and there were consequences. And I have a lot of empathy. I think that's very sad.
So for example, she had a relationship with Tennessee Williams, who she made the choice to be in a relationship, who she wanted to be in a relationship with. He saw her as this ideal woman that he wanted because of her sexuality, but when he was with her, he wanted her to be like the Madonna whore complex. He wanted her to be the Madonna, but she didn't fit that. And so he was horrible to her as a result and left her, and she made a choice to love, but because of her sexuality, she wasn't.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. The Madonna whore complex.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I don't
How
like
we
that.
divide the feminine into like the virgin and the whore,
Yeah.
like Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, that sort of thing. It's how we separate the feminine in order. We separate things we don't understand. It's weird to think that women can both be that purity and that sexual.
Well, I mean, like my point is you pick who you date. So like if you keep finding yourself in toxic relationship after toxic relationship, you have to look at yourself. I don't know anything about Marilyn Monroe. I'm not going to pretend to be like the expert on I don't know what she did in her life. But my only point is like actions have consequences, and I don't care what people do, but just don't complain about the
And
consequences.
the consequences of let's say, more sexually liberated society is that most societies and most nations are built off a core nuclear family structure. Okay, the West seems to be straying more away from a nuclear family structure, and so if the men are building their society, right? Generally, men build societies. Women nurture what's in the society. So if the men are building the society and women are nurturing what's in the society, like I said, the women aren't right, and we need a nuclear family structure. Yet and still, this society teaches women to be independent. You don't need a man. You can do it all by yourself. Okay, that is going to affect the moral fabric of the society in which we're living.
But if you make the point about women making bad choices about partners, if they stop making those choices, then they're wrong for making the choices not to be with partners who are going to be horrible to them.
Say that again. Sorry.
So because of feminine sexual liberation, where they choose, they don't need a man, they become independent, that sort of thing.
Yes.
But it's come from a space where women make choices to be with the wrong men, so they decide to make different choices, to be independent, to not pursue those options. So then what's the right choice?
So you're saying that they made that choice because of...
So in this situation where Marilyn Monroe made the decision to be with those people, those toxic, just as an example, not her specifically, but made that choice to be in those toxic relationships, and now we're on the other side where women are choosing to be independent, choosing not to be in those toxic relationships, rather choosing to support themselves than rely on someone who's going to ultimately harm her.
She made those choices to be with those men.
But that's what I'm saying. So women
I'm
are choosing to be on their own.
Well,
No,
why
but
are you? Why are you acting like those are the only two options? Why are the only two options? Pick a bad guy or be by yourself.
Because some people don't actually have a choice. I think a lot of women. So when I think about my grandma or the men that she was dating, whatever, at that time you didn't really have a job. If you're a woman, it wasn't really. You basically forced not to, basically. And then the men that came to you were your options, right? She had two options. Both were not very nice men. And once you get into a relationship, you can fall in love with a narcissist and he could be amazing. And then you marry them and then they just hurt you every single day. And without any financial freedom or independence, you can't leave, right? So in this society, it's like, look,
You could leave
would-
today. You could get a job.
Yeah, I mean, just because you don't like your
could,
options.
You could get a job in
Yeah.
the past, but what you're saying is with a nuclear family, the woman stays home, she doesn't go to work, she's not independent. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Maybe that's not what you meant, but if a woman can't be financially independent and free, then some people don't actually have that choice in being able to leave a violent relationship.
I'm not saying girls can't be financially independent. Like they can go be financially independent, but what I'm saying, it's not conducive for families.
Right.
So like kids, it's better for them to have a mom and a dad in the home.
Right.
That's incredibly heteronormative as well, right? There's so many.
Sorry,
different,
what's hetero? I don't know.
Sorry, as in like
Very
straight couples, right? There's so
Extremely
many
straight.
different family dynamics that can like supportively and genuinely raise a kid.
So
with love.
so I will say on this show we try to stick to the rule rather than the exception, and that's not the majority.
So I'll
Go
get
ahead.
to the rule.
Yeah.
I'll get to the rule. 63% of youth suicides, are from single mother homes. 90% of homelessness and runaway children are from single mother
you
homes.
can't put that on the mother.
85% of children who show behavioral disorders are from single mother homes. 80% of rapists with anger problems are from single mother homes. 71% of high school dropouts are from single mother homes. 70% of youths in operated institutions are from single mother homes. 80% of all the youths that are in prison are from single mother homes.
So
Is
how
that-
are
and
you
you
going to
can't put
blame
that
the
on the
woman
mother.
then?
Well, he didn't.
Blame
Like,
it on the
guys, why is your immediate reaction? You're blaming the woman when he's just reading a stat.
Because I think where this conversation was going was like, you know what, women need to behave, women need to act correctly, and then life would be sweet. There'd be more nuclear families. Like that's not the case.
Yeah.
There's a lot of relationships that don't work, and for a lot of women, the best situation they can they can give to their child is say, "I'm going to leave this man."
Okay,
And
so
you know
that-
what?
But I'm saying,
Or
saying,
the man leaves. The man is nowhere to
that's-
be seen. He's disappeared.
Statistically, that's not true. That's not true. Women leave 70 to 80% of the time. I'm pretty sure now it's 80%, and if you're college educated, it's 90%. So women are the ones leaving. And the other thing is like
not a
the
bad
reason
thing.
the reason I would put it on the woman is because you pick who you have a baby with. So it's okay. So we're in the UK now, right? And abortion's legal up to 6 months.
Yeah.
You pick who you have a baby with. You get an out.
But what if you have a baby with someone believing that they're a genuine person, that they're going to step up, and then they choose?
In my experience,
not
that's
step
the
up.
exception. It's not the rule. Because what I see is girls see the red flags early on. They keep dating him. And then it goes poorly and they're crying later. But it's like you saw the 10 million red flags before you had the kid.
There are so many different things involved in not seeing red flags. There's so many different mental health issues. There's so many different societal
There's so many
pressures.
excuses.
It's not
Yeah,
an excuse,
yeah, there's
though. You call it an
excuses.
excuse, but there's a reason for it.
There's a reason that's an excuse.
It doesn't mean it's not
you
justified.
sound like you have a lot of excuses for women.
I don't have excuses for women. I have an
Like,
understanding
to me-
of what women have been through.
To me, it's just
What women
take
have
Yeah, but what
accountability.
you've been through isn't an
I
excuse.
think the conversation is like you're trying to say it's everything's really black and white.
Yeah.
Like this is the reason why women leave all the time. Like relationships are so complex that looking at a stat, you can't be like, okay, well, it's women's fault. They need to behave.
Yeah.
But the results is what matters. What matters is not your feelings. What matters is the results at the end of the day. And so if the results are a certain percentage of women, 80% are leaving marriages, your feelings don't come into the situation, because what's happening is, because everyone's going to have different feelings, right? This woman said it was because of that reason. That woman said it because of that reason. It was because of this. But at the end of the day, the result is it's 80% of women leaving marriage.
why
And
do
at
the
the end,
reasons
and at the end, and at the end of the
divorces.
day, it's the kids who suffer because you're
Right.
putting your feelings above the kids. And this is, I'm taking out exceptions like abuse. Outside of abuse,
Right.
you're putting your feelings above the children.
Do you not think if men behave better, women would stay? Because women are now, you have to be responsible. You have to get a job, but also you have to do the domestic labor. You have to do the emotional labor. Men, in today's society, you have to get a job and you have to
Isn't that
help
sexist?
out with the
Isn't
child.
that a bit sexist?
Yeah, but
But
Oh, yeah.
but why, I don't understand why
But
it's
it
okay
is.
to be openly sexist against men.
but it's not sexist.
because what if
when
they
I
said if
study-
women just behaved better, that it would be better?
Because that's
You
what,
said
that's
that
what you
earlier.
said.
You
No,
said
no,
it.
no,
that's not.
That's
No,
what you
You said, behave correctly.
that's the whole stream.
But
You
I
guys-
was
go ahead.
only saying that to combat saying, oh, it's the women's fault. Well, what about
We're not-
if the
we're
men
not-
could?
we're
if
not saying-
the men
we're
could
not
be a
saying-
better husband and could help around the house more. The fact that men help around the house when it's their house as well, that's literally what it's called. there is a disparity with the amount of labor that women do and that men do.
Yeah, but men
statistically.
make more money statistically. So you could just say the men contribute more.
Yeah, and men provide value in other ways.
If a dude's paying my rent, he's not doing shit.
Like
He's
that.
not doing shit around the house.
But women also work, so like they're also doing a 9 to 5. Like maybe
But I'm saying statistically, men make more money. Go ahead.
Sorry,
I
go
just
on.
wanted to ask all your statistics and your percentages, all of that. Where did you find it? Is it in the UK? Is it in the US?
UK and US. There's a little bit of a disparity between the UK and US. Specifically, when it comes to divorce, it's 64% in the UK and it's 80% in the US.
Who carried out the
90%
studies?
The government.
The government
studies.
took how many women? 100 women, and then asked them about their life. And
So
then
do you think if you do 3-4 different studies and they all come up to similar conclusions, we can say that it's around 80%, 90%
Lawyers.
if you're
Divorce lawyers, divorce court. We're getting the statistics from there, so we can see who's initiating the divorces.
like
And
someone
it's-
has to file.
Right, exactly.
So
So
it's
when you
pretty
file for
easy,
divorce,
yeah.
it goes on record. So it's
Okay.
80% of women that are filing for divorce.
how would
And
you
the-
improve the situation for like? I feel like you both have like heard, thought about this a lot. Like, what would you say that both men and women can do to improve the situation?
I think a financial abortion should be legal.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Like, I think that if women have the right to get an abortion, men should be able to get a financial abortion so they can sign off all rights and not pay any child support.
Whoa.
I would say that's one thing, because the way it is now, like, women are incentivized to get kids off of rich guys. Like, the NBA had to issue a statement saying that women like kept stealing condoms, and I just think that should be illegal. Like, you shouldn't be able to legally do
Drake
that.
had to put hot sauce in his
Yeah,
condom
like, I'd say that's one.
to stop this woman from getting
Yeah.
his baby. There are women out there literally incentivized to try and get a rich man's baby.
That was just one story with Drake and one random lady, and it doesn't represent all women in the world.
So I understand that, but I do these interviews all the time. So I'll go on the street, I'll talk to random people on the street, random people in my living room, and I've had so many guys tell me stories of girls doing this to them. Go ahead.
And your guys' opinions favor a certain side. So when you go out on these ventures and you ask people, you know what you're looking for. You know what you can put and edit and post.
Are you
and-
saying we're rigging the game now? Is that what you're
no,
saying?
not rigging the game, but
Yeah.
you're looking for something, and that's why you're going out there. So you're going to speak about certain
but I
things.
also think
I
if
would say I get more people that disagree, to be honest, when I go out than agree. So I wouldn't say I'm like rigging the game.
Okay.
But if you're going to have sex with a woman, sorry, am I supposed to?
You can say sex. That's fine.
Did I say woman?
Um, there is a chance that woman may get pregnant. Like,
So if you have
regardless-
sex with a guy, there's a chance you might get pregnant.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's on you.
So yeah,
not the guy.
so if you
Yeah, so-
get to choose not to be a mother, he should get to choose not to be a father. Equal. Equality.
Whose responsibility do you think it is for getting pregnant?
It's
both of them.
it's definitely that's
How?
a
Yeah, but
that's
women
two
have
to
more to
tango.
risk by getting
Yeah,
pregnant.
I would-
Therefore, they
How?
need to exercise
Unless it's
more wisdom.
unless it's a situation of grape, you let the man inside. So how is it?
So it's your responsibility if you get pregnant, even though it's
No, I said whose responsibility for it to get pregnant? All of the power is within the woman's hands. You have the right to say yes or no. Once you do say yes or no, you have the right to keep the baby. You have the right to either put the baby up for adoption. You have the right to put the man on child support.
We
It's all-
also
it's-
we,
it's all
we
in
also
your
we
hands.
also have birth control. You can get an IUD. It's like
Yeah.
99.99% effective.
It's
so
all-
so
Yeah,
I'm
IUDs
saying,
aren't great though. Birth control isn't great to be.
but
on.
I'm saying that's a better option than what men have. Or you can require the men you sleep with wear a condom. So it's like I'm saying we have all the power when it comes to sex and who gives birth and who picks who is born.
Yeah, nowadays I feel like a woman's really only going to have a kid if she like really wants to, because
Yeah.
there's so many ways for her to prevent that at different stages all throughout.
But I also think if there were more support for women who do want to have children, may not have necessarily found the right man who actually wants to have a child with her, if she was able to get more financial support, then she wouldn't feel like she'd need to trap a man
But she's
in
not
order to
entitled
get
to
a
that.
baby.
Like,
Hang on.
that's a horrible excuse.
She's not entitled to
Are
it.
you
You think
saying that-
are you excusing a girl trying to get a kid off of a rich guy because she doesn't like
I'm
that?
not trying to excuse it,
but
but
that's what you're doing.
If like, childcare is really expensive, okay?
Right.
Raising a child is really expensive and it's really hard to do on your own, right?
Yeah,
But
so you
if
should
you
get
really
married.
want a child,
You should get married and do it.
but what if no one wants to marry you?
Did you know that before you got
There's
pregnant?
Then you need to
Well,
you need
yeah.
to
Then-
you need
then
to
maybe-
change your strategy.
Well, I'm saying maybe lower your standards then. If none of the guys you like want to marry you, you're probably shooting too high.
or change how you deal with
just
men.
like if a dude's shooting at Victoria's Secret models and they all tell him no, like he'll probably be like, oh, let me adjust.
What if you're like, just don't see any men that you like?
Sperm donor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
What if
so-
you're asexual?
Very
You don't
true.
have any romantic
Yeah.
or sexual interest ever. You just
Just want a
want
baby.
to live life, have a kid.
Well, isn't that selfish?
That's
to
selfish.
bring a kid
It's a
into a
sexual
situation
orientation.
where,
It's
where
all
they're-
selfish.
Sexual
No,
orientation.
it's not
you
selfish.
don't think children need two parents?
No.
Well, I think they need a community. I don't think they need two parents.
This is one of the reasons why society's broken. Because women are actually literally running around thinking that children don't need two parents.
If you're a good enough person, you can teach a child by yourself. I know that.
I just read you a bunch of stats showing that children that come from single mothers are statistically at a disadvantage in nearly every category.
That's not necessarily
and then you're
because-
going to tell me, oh yeah, it's fine. Let's raise a child's body.
If you're
Like
Yeah.
I think it's equally selfish if a dude does the same thing. Like if a dude wanted to, I don't know, adopt as a single father, like I think that's selfish.
And even
think
if you
it's
can, that doesn't necessarily mean you should.
Yeah, like because you're putting what you want above what is best for the kid.
I think if you're adopting a child, whether you're a single person or not, I think that's a really lovely thing to do because being in the care system is not fun. And if you're a single parent, it's better than having no parent, no one to look after you. You've got care workers in and out all day. And also, like, I lost my train of thought.
But an ideal situation would be
in an
like,
ideal situation is two parents. Would you
Right.
not agree with that?
I would agree that you need a support system. It doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be two parents. You could have four parents.
You could have friends.
You could have cousins and aunties who are older.
Do you think
who,
that's
like,
the
look
same as
after
having a
you.
mom and a dad in the home?
I've never had both, so I have no idea. I could not compare.
I think
Right,
if the
but-
kid has adults who love them and show that they love them
Yeah.
openly and always, then it doesn't matter if it's specifically a man and a woman or two parents that raise them.
So
if it's a community,
so
if
in
it's
all the
someone that shows love.
So in all the statistics that I read, they never had a father in the home.
There are so many
Okay?
different.
So hang on. They never had a father in the home. Okay, it was single. They never had a father. This shows that boys and girls need both their mother and their father to be fully functioning members of society, who aren't going to be rapists, who aren't going to be prisoners, who aren't going to be misfits. But I actually, this is one of the things that I can't understand why women would argue for singledom and to raise a child by themselves and then act like it's normal, like it's gonna benefit society. It's not gonna benefit society when it comes to prison. It's not gonna benefit society when it comes to crime. So why do it?
I think what you've just said is that you can't be a normal functioning member of society if you were raised by a
That's not
single
what
Well,
I
it's
mom.
not that you can't. It's not that you can't. It's about probability.
That's not. We're saying
that's
that
what
we're
I
saying
heard, and
that's that,
also-
okay, but just because you heard it, that's not what he said. That's not what he said.
Okay.
So what we're saying is it puts you at every statistical
Yeah.
disadvantage. So
Disadvantage.
why would you push that in a society?
Yeah.
I don't think, personally, I'm not speaking to everyone else, I'm not pushing it, but if that's your best bet, like, then
Yep.
that's all you can do is your best, and if you're doing your best, then like what else can you
Get married.
expect someone to
I
do?
feel
Like there's
That
would
always
be your
okay,
best
there's,
because
there's,
of your
always, there's
past
always
decisions.
there's always a guy that's gonna marry you. Like I'm sorry, 1 out of 3 men are either virgins or haven't had sex in the last year. So the issue is just like the guys that girls don't want them. And so I think the solution is getting a guy on your level.
I feel like the thing with the parents, the kids, the mothers, I feel like kids are just kids. They just arrived here. They don't know anything. The only way a kid is going to be
you have a child?
disadvantaged from a single parent or whatever is when they grow up and then they hear people talking about it.
Do you have a child?
As a kid, you won't notice
you
who's
have a child?
raising you. No, I don't have a child.
I do. Okay, I've got a
Congrats.
son. And I will tell you as a father, I know from raising my son that he needs both me and his mother in his life. So when someone who hasn't had children is telling me, oh no, kids don't need both their parents, I find it laughable because I tell you something, most parents will tell you that they know that their child needs both parents in their life. For you to say something like that makes no sense to me as a parent. It doesn't make any sense.
I
think
have
that's
kids in my family that were raised single parents and whatever, or some kids in care and stuff like that. I feel like it's laughable that you just said, "Oh, my life is this, so you're wrong."
It's not.
just
It's
you.
not. It's not.
There's
That's not
other
what he's
kids-
saying. He's saying
I
my
read the
life.
statistics.
He's saying my life is this, and stats back
It's not
it
about
up.
me. It's not about the statistics. It's about what the results are at the end of the day.
Because the way you're going, it's just like I believe what I believe, regardless of any stats. So you could see whatever stat, and you're still going to think what you think.
Yeah, because I think you can't generalize anything in the
Right.
world. I don't think anything can be generalized.
You can't.
You have to
can't-
generalize,
wow.
like unless you're
I
a
think
therapist
people-
giving specific advice, like you have to
I
generalize.
think people are too individual to even.
You're
Yeah.
saying you can't generalize.
You can't say women are this. You can't say so and so is out.
You
or-
can't say children prefer milk. You
No.
can't say,
Some
you
kids
know,
do.
you know,
I hate
do you know
it.
what I mean? You can't say anything. What do you mean you can't
I
generalize?
just feel like I never I don't say anything. I don't say women are this or dogs are that or whatever is this. I just say that thing there is this and that's it. And I don't generalize.
Do dogs bark?
Some don't. My dog never barks.
So now, see, this is the thing. So now you would just argue just to be right in a conversation because you know dogs bark. But for you to say, oh, some don't, it's like you know that's what dogs do.
Then you can't argue anything.
You can't argue anything.
Because if you can't generalize at all, then you can't argue anything.
Yeah, there are always
I'll
exceptions.
take that back.
Do you know what I mean?
I'll take that back and I will just say you
Right.
can't generalize men and women and families.
I also think there's a difference between ideal and realism, like the reality of people's situation.
Exactly.
I think a lot of women would love to be married, but they're realistically.
But they made poor choices to not
I
get
think
there.
they have the wrong
Maybe they
strategies.
did get married and maybe it was a bad time. You know, you never know the situation. But being a single mum is a lot of work, especially if you have like 3 kids.
Yeah, so
you've got to
you
pay
shouldn't
for
pick
them.
it.
you've
You
got
don't
to-
end up as a
you've got
single
time
mum
to
by
date.
accident.
Like,
Yeah, so I'm saying like
Who's got
don't
time?
pick it. So don't pick it. That's a choice.
Yeah, you don't end up as a single mum by accident.
Like, and you choose who you sleep with.
I don't know. I think
And-
well, maybe if that husband was better, she wouldn't have left.
Oh, it's his
But why
fault.
is why is
You
it
know, so
always?
it's-
But why
it's
is
a
it?
whole-
Maybe if
it's
she
a
was maybe
relationship. It's
maybe
both of
maybe
them.
if she was better, she wouldn't have left.
I think if they both worked on it, then yeah, I think we can both agree people should work on their relationships before calling it quits. But there's a reality and ideal.
Listen, I think
situation.
women should be more discerning when deciding which men they should
Okay,
get
but
involved
women have only recently earned, like, over the last, 20, 30 years, right? Which isn't a long time period in the grand scheme of things, especially
It's been
generationally.
longer.
I mean,
That's
It's
a
two
fa-
generations.
Fair enough,
It's two
but
generations.
the
That's it.
consequences will still be there.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's 2 generations.
What does that have to
and
do with
women
me today?
Had to
What does
rely
that? No,
on men.
I'm a woman. What does that have to do with me today?
Women had to rely on men for, like you said, financial support to be able to work, to be able to live, essentially. And as we've come out of that, yes, it's been 40, 50 years, right? As we've come, probably a bit longer. No, about 50, 60 years to say that. And they had to rely on settling to be able to get a man to be able to support them. So we are still shifting out of that mindset where you settle for something that maybe isn't that great because you have to be supported. You have to have this nuclear family situation. I grew up with 2 parents in the house. I grew up with a relative, 2 parents who were incredibly functioning society, but I was suicidal by the time I was 12. So having 2 parents doesn't blanketly assume that you're going to be happy. Like those statistics that you read off, it's not necessarily because the kid had a single mother. There's so many different systemic issues that go into that. Poverty,
Again.
where you live, like different aspects.
I've
It's
got a
not
qu-
just about having a single mother.
I've got a question for you,
Yes.
all the girls on the panel. So, I learned this a couple of weeks ago that women are very picky when it comes to men. My question is, if you were given the choice, would you marry a guy you're not attracted to, knowing that he's going to stay in the relationship? And Pearl, feel free to rephrase my question if you feel I'm saying it wrong. Or, so would you marry a guy that you're not attracted to, but you know he's going to stay there, he's going to provide and everything? Or would you marry the guy that's cheated multiple times, but you are madly in love with him? Who would you be with?
That's a bound if you're
I'll go
cheating.
first.
How do you?
Personally, I would say neither, and because I've been in both of those situations where I've had someone who would be a perfect option, but I wasn't attracted to them, and I've had someone that I've been madly in love with who fucked around with me, essentially. I've been in both those situations, and I think the issue is people have to think they have to settle for those situations.
So which
Well,
one?
Neither.
Neither.
Sorry, I don't know if it's a cop out, but I wouldn't choose either.
it's
I'm
a-
not doing. I would rather be on my own.
All right.
If those are my two
if
options,
you could give me one, if life on the line, one that you
I would choose the one I'm not attracted to.
Cool.
Me too.
Okay.
Yep.
I think I also have to say neither. I'm not somebody who's ever necessarily thought
If your life is on the line, if your life is on the line, pick one.
I'd rather die. I think that's where
honestly, like the way you guys are answering, like that's why 50% of women over 30 are single and childless.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they want to be. It's a decision.
It's not necessarily because they're also the least happy group when they hit like 45 or 50.
Correct.
Because like the party runs out.
Yeah.
it's not really a decision.
Someday no one's
It does.
lining up to date you at a certain age.
Yeah. And it's not really a decision because the guys are the ones who control who gets relationships. I mean, from what I can see, it seems like the crux is you need to understand that just because you don't like your options doesn't mean you should gaslight yourself
but
into
you're-
believing you don't have any. Like,
Right.
Yeah, and your options are
But
just
I-
that's your level.
I
So
don't
like
think
if you don't like the guys you can date, then like you should probably try to improve yourself.
Well, yeah, and I completely agree with that. I believe you should work onto yourself until you're ready to be in a relationship that you want, and that's why I would rather be alone until I'm ready for a relationship that's going to be reciprocal in all ways. And I think that's the mindset. It shouldn't be about whether people are going to settle for a relationship or anything like this. People should be open to working on themselves, be open to like not being judgmental and being it's about love.
Do you think at a certain age though, it's kind of just like, okay, like let's say 32. You only really have till 35 if you want to have kids, and you don't have, because geriatric pregnancy is like $20,000 a year. So the average person can't afford that. If you want a family and you want kids, do you think there's a certain age where you kind of look around and be like, you know what? I don't think my options are going to get better than this because I'm just getting older.
I think yes and no.
Because I a lot of times, like when we say settle, like maybe he's settling for her. Like, how can we just say women are settling when that's your level? I think that's like saying a guy saying, oh, I didn't get a Victoria's Secret model, so I settled.
Yeah.
I think settling.
Okay,
but I think settling for appearance is different in terms of settling for the way someone behaves.
Yeah.
So the way someone treats you. If you're settling for someone who doesn't treat you the way you deserve to be treated, who isn't present, who doesn't show up, or treats you the way you want to be treated, then you're settling for yourself. And I think the idea is that we have limited options, which we don't.
So men and women are also attracted to different things.
Yeah. So if women hate men that don't treat them right, then why do we all seem to date them?
Correct.
Trauma, generational trauma, a whole bunch of stuff. Many different things.
No,
it's not an excuse. It's genuinely what's going on.
Women are attracted to bad boys.
Yeah.
Right?
I like a good
at a
boy.
certain age. Generally, women are attracted to bad boys. So women see red flags in men. They see a certain type of man. Generally, we know it's not all women, yeah, and they still go for that type of man.
Do you know about attachment theory by any chance?
Go on.
How we pursue relationships that remind us of our earliest relationships.
It's like anxious attachment,
that sort of thing, right? So especially in terms of like anxious attachment and that sort of thing, you tend to seek relationships where even if someone's treating you negatively, you think you're the problem. So you do anything you can to change yourself to match that behavior, and that's why women stay in relationships, because they have this self-deprecating view of themselves.
So are they broken?
Insecurity. I wouldn't say broken. I don't like the word broken.
Well, because that's what the show's
Unhealed.
about. Broken women,
Unhealed.
broken
I would say
society.
unhealed. No, but I would make that point.
That
I don't
sounds
think
broken
society
to
is
me.
broken. I think unhealed and broken are very different things.
I think
So they're
very different
unhealed.
things.
But you don't think if you keep dating bad partner after bad partner, like maybe it's you. Maybe
do you know how
maybe
deep the trauma goes for someone to constantly put themselves in that situation where they constantly make the wrong choice?
Yeah, but after a while.
So deep, and that can be so subconscious. It's so difficult to consciously bring to mind if you don't have the right people talking to you about it, the right therapy.
Or you could just make better. Like
it's not an excuse. It's even if it is an excuse, it's a genuine excuse that people deal with. People
not really.
Like, at the end of the day, you have to take
I have an
ownership.
anxious attachment style, but I'm not going to blame that on my poor choices. Like, I'm just gonna say that was a poor choice, and I'm gonna learn from it. I'm not gonna say,
And
that's
blame it on your childhood.
But
no. I mean, I could do a whole sob story about how I had 10 siblings.
It's not a sob story. You can acknowledge the poor choice and still like see that you can make better. But some people just can't see that.
Or you could just say, oh, this is a poor choice. This is on me. This is my fault. I'm gonna move on.
Some people don't have the ability to be able to do that.
Everyone has the ability.
You make that assumption.
It's a choice.
It's not.
Choice.
Some things are so deeply. I'm going to say yes, but I don't like the word broken. I say unhealed.
I also think when you get to an
broken
adult,
women, broken society.
But it's not just broken women. It's broken men. It's broken people.
No, but
it's not just broken women.
Okay, so you're talking about anxious attachment styles.
Yeah.
We're talking about women who choose men.
Yeah.
Right. When women choose women have babies by these men. Right.
Sometimes.
So generally, women are having babies. Right. So if they're choosing these men, having babies by these men, what are these children going to be? That's what I said. What are these children going to be like? Because the next generation that is going to be raised in this society, the next generation that matters in this society is the children. Okay. And so, like I said, if the women are broken, you are going to raise a broken society.
The men are involved in that too.
Yeah.
Oh, but hang on.
But
you were telling me that it's okay to raise a child without a man.
Yeah.
So you're saying, men are involved, but you don't want the man involved.
No, I'm not saying that's a blanket.
So then what are we doing here? What are we doing? Are we raising nuclear families, or are we doing the whole single mother thing? Are we being broken? Are we raising broken children? What are we doing?
I don't understand how women are broken because they choose bad men. So that means broken society. But
men are broken.
Bad men, they're just being chose. The bad men are there. That's the subject.
But bad men are broken too.
But the majority of men are good men.
Ooh.
It's a very small percentage of men that are sleeping with all the women. Like it's a very
20%.
like if you want a guy that's over 6 foot, that's 15% of men. You want him to be cute, cut that in half. You want him to make money, cut that in half. It's a very small percentage of men that are sleeping with all the girls. Like every girl has a guy in their friend zone that would treat them well,
Right.
and they know would treat them well, and they know likes them. And it's like we don't pick them, and then we're gonna cry because the guy we picked is bad to us. But you could have picked the guy in the friend zone.
I feel like it's just like a fairy tale. Like I don't think this actually exists in the world. I think it's like a High School Musical like movie plot. I don't think it's actually.
Wait, so
true.
this is
you've
actually
never
how it is.
wait, you've never friend zoned a guy?
No. I never friend zoned him. If a guy asks me out, you either say yes or no. I'm not going to stay friends with him because I just pied him off. That's so awkward. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to do that.
You've never had a guy that you would say is a nice guy ask you out.
Yeah.
Okay, so then why don't you date him?
I've had a nice guy ask. Oh.
Yeah, so I'm saying
No, I don't fancy him.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we complain about men, but we pick who we date.
But I've met nice guys who I'm into just because I didn't settle for the guy that I wasn't too into as nice. I met someone else who was into that I was nice, and we didn't necessarily
But I'm saying,
get.
I'm saying like the guys that treat you like shit usually treat you like shit because they have a bunch of options and they don't care.
But I also think you're trying to blanket statement and say like all women like bad guys. Like I've never once been like he's being really mean to me. Let me go near him more. Like I am very lucky that both of my exes were really like stand up, lovely men, and like not every woman. And I think the more you perpetuate that women like bad guys, men are going to treat women like shit.
It's not like something that's being perpetuated. It's like the actions that we can actually see. You know, you can either judge based off what you hear people say or how they actually move and how they actually act.
Well, I only know how I act, and I do prefer.
And that's why
nice
we're generalizing
boys. But
here
there's
on a larger
always
scale.
certain people who do have negative relationships with men, and I do agree that there are attachment styles. But I also agree that you get to a certain age, and it's your responsibility to sort your own shit out before you get into a relationship.
Can I go back
Sometimes
to
it
what
can
you
be
said?
difficult to get to
You
that
said
point.
that your exes were nice guys.
Yeah.
Then why are you not with them, or why are you not with them?
The first one, he was a bit older than me. I was at uni, and he said, "Look, I'm waiting for you to graduate, for you to come back to make a family, make a baby. Do you want that?" And I said, "I want to move to London." And he was like, "I've never moved to London," so we broke up.
Right. Okay.
And the other one is a bit techie, but I loved him, but our communication just wasn't communicating. And it was like in
Did you leave?
lockdown, and it was like
Or did he leave
both
you?
of us, it wasn't just him, it wasn't just me. We were both like really like, it was very like, just nothing too much, but it was just not a nice environment to be
No,
in.
I'm saying, did you leave him or did he leave you?
The first one, he left me.
No, the second one.
Second one, I left him. And I still love him, but yeah.
But the first one you could have chose to be with if you wanted to, right? If you wanted
Yeah.
to start a family and then.
Yeah.
And so like the way men look at it is like basically you had two options of like nice guys you could have married.
Yeah.
And then later if you come back and complain that you have no one,
Yeah.
which I'm not saying you're going to do that, but I'm saying a common complaint is a lot of women do that. And they're like, well, you didn't want us when you were young.
It wasn't necessarily that I didn't want them. Like, I love them both dearly. And if they were both in London, I probably would date one. But the thing is that, like, life just takes you different ways. And I want the best for them. And I don't even know if I'll
I
get
think
married,
people make
like,
choices
date again.
and then
Like-
they
I mean,
may not like the
that's-
consequences.
that's-
It's not like life takes you different ways. You make choices
Right.
and then there are
Yeah, 'cause
consequences
you
to
want
your
different
actions.
things.
Yeah, that's fair enough. There's nothing wrong with that. But you just need to understand that actions have consequences. And, you know, you might like the action, but you might not like the consequence, you know, and that doesn't mean you should blame, you know, life went different ways. No, you took an action and there's a consequence now that you don't like, even though you liked the action initially.
I think the way in which when it comes to breakups, what I hear a lot is that women's stories for breakups versus men's stories for breakups always like they always amuse me, because women always have this convoluted way they feel and how it went down and blah blah blah, and it's never just someone said they didn't want to be in a relationship, generally, because someone initiates that first conversation. Someone says, is it working out, or are we doing well, da 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 da, and then the conversation ensues, and then you kind of decide. So someone generally makes that first move. But when you come to women, it's as if we can't really get to the bottom of who broke up with who, and then when we do, it's you broke up with him, but you're telling me that he's a nice guy, and if he's a nice guy, then you should be with him.
Exactly. Like
It doesn't make any sense. Like, if he's a nice guy, you should be with the guy. Why are you not with the nice guy?
Exactly. I mean, like with me and my ex, it was quite clear like why we broke up. Like, she was like, okay, we're either going to start living together or that's it. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, that's it, because I value living on my own. And she wanted that, but I was just like, no. So it's quite clear, you know, but I know what you mean. When women tend to talk about breakups, it's like, and this isn't all women, of course,
story.
but it's just
like
like
a word salad.
It's like a lot of, it's
a whole
like,
story.
it's nothing
It's like-
specific. It's just all these vague, intangible,
Yes,
you
vague,
know, and it's like,
intangible type
you
stuff.
can just be real. Like, it's cool. It's cool.
As men, you have to understand that our brains work differently, because we understand if you spoke to a guy and he said, "Oh, you're not with your girl." "Yeah, I'm not with my girl." "Oh, what happened?" "Yeah, this is what happened, bro. This happened, that happened, that happened, this happened, and we're gone."
Exactly.
Right? So you get the story, but when it's women, it's like, "Yeah, well, what happened is the communication weren't communicating." And it's like, what are you talking about? Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on. Like, it doesn't make any sense. To us as men, anyway, it doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to